A very good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first of a kind Avico exclusive session. And our topic for today is intelligent investing in 2021, where the main topics that we'll be covering is a descriptive analysis of the stock market and what the pandemic has made out of it and what we can expect in the future, a brief overview about it. And the second topic that we are taking is the cryptocurrency and why pandemic has urged this demand in the market. We have a very special guest with us today. We have Mr. Aniket Don here, who is currently pursuing his bachelor's in commerce, and he is an expert in financial and market analysis. And welcome, Aniket, to our session.
Thank you.
We also have Mr. Varat Kulkarni here, who's a co-founder, and he's been a part of many of our sessions before. So, Varat, very warm welcome.
Thank you so much,
And I'm your
Akash.
host for today, Akash Subramanian. And let's get this session started, guys. Bharat, the first question goes for you. So, post-pandemic free fall that we saw in the stock market, we have seen Indian markets to be rising like never before. We can see that the Sensex is currently valued at 49,000, almost reaching 50,000 right now. Right, it's unprecedented. Although companies have been like hit critically by lockdowns, even like blue chip stocks, they were expected to have a huge hit because of the companies and their sales. The market has like discounted the future and kept valuations too high, probably. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes, Akash. So thank you so much for your question. And the answer here uh, cannot be restricted to just one or two reasons. There are so many reasons. I will try to cover maximum as much as I can.
Hmm.
First and foremost reason might be the decreasing interest rates, which resulted in Federal Reserve and also the RBI continuously reducing interest rates to keep the liquidity afloat in the market, also to maintain the you know the inflation and deflationary pressure in the industry. The United States Federal Reserve has made the interest rate zero at some point of time after the pandemic hit the US economy.
Hmm.
What happens is that when the interest rates are very low, the asset class of fixed deposit or the bank deposit which general public can keep with the banks
Hmm.
reduces substantially, because investors cannot expect any interest rates from that, because
Right.
of which what happens is that the money flow is it's branched or circulated in other asset class, which is most importantly is stock markets,
Hmm.
due to which there is a flush of liquidity. There is a lot of liquidity into the markets. And once, as we have already discussed in the in our previous sessions, that
Hmm.
when something major financial events occur in the United States, it affects overall the world economy.
Hmm.
So as the liquidity started increasing in the United States, the money started flowing out of US, and it finally reached India also. And in India also, the situation was not very different. We were also having a lot of liquidity into the markets, and because of which the stock prices we have seen were continuously increasing after that. This is just one of the reason.
Hmm.
Next reason can be the as we all know, there is a proverb, or it's a proverb as well as a formula for
Hmm.
calculating the prices in the stock market, that we say markets discount everything.
That is
So,
right.
so when markets discount everything, by that we mean that the markets predict the price of stocks in the future, and
Hmm.
they try to discount it at the present value. So what happens is that if market is expecting that the economy will do well in the future, they try to just consolidate it in current year prices, and hence we see
Hmm.
that the prices to go on increasing. This is second reason. There is one more reason, and there are so many, but I will just restrict myself to the most important ones. The third
Absolutely.
reason is not the most concrete one, I would say, but it can be the election of US President Joe Biden. after which we have seen the stock markets to behave positively. The most important factor in that is that Joe Biden is expected to end trade war with China. Then the next reason being the economic policies, I'm aware of the fact that he is definitely going to increase the taxes on rich, as well as some economic policies such as health services in the US are going to be costlier for the US government in the coming future. However, we can expect a stable business environment and stable international relations after the Joe Biden takes into the White House.
Absolutely.
One more reason, just the last one, but this probably has somehow shaped the US markets and as well as the overall liquidity flow. That is the discovery of vaccine. We have seen many times that whenever there have been a positive news regarding vaccine, the stock markets have always behaved positively. And if you remember, meanwhile, there was a news that Pfizer and BioNTech vaccine was not performing well, or some candidates of Oxford AstraZeneca fell ill during the trials, and to that stock markets reacted adversely. So
Yes.
that was the main cause. Vaccine, by far, I guess 6 vaccines have been successful throughout the world, and that are the 4 reasons which I found most interesting.
Absolutely. Thank
Respectively, yeah.
you. Thank you so much, Bharat. That was a descriptive, very good analysis, actually. You had mentioned that majority of the reasons was seen with USA's economic, politic, and geopolitical factors affecting the entire market around the world. So, as you had mentioned in the earlier sessions, when US sneezes, the world catches a cold. So, Aniket, this question is directed to you. So, talking about Joe Biden coming into power, talking specifically about Indian market getting affected in US elections, do you think any particular sectors might have a different scenario because of these elections, like after the elections?
Right. So to answer that question, I don't think any particular sector is affected by the election of Joe Biden to the office of the President of the United States. Although you could say that the IT services industry in India, that is the TCS and Infosys and the HCL kind of stocks, they have a bit of a tailwind because of stability in the US markets over the next 4 years. But I mean, mainly this rally has been fueled by the quantitative easing by the Federal Reserve. You see, the Federal Reserve generally pushes liquidity through the system with the hope of stimulating the economy whenever there is a crisis. To give you some numbers, during the 2008 global financial crisis, the balance sheet of the US Federal Reserve had expanded by about 150%. Then during 2013, during the Eurozone crisis, when Greece was on the verge of bankruptcy, the Fed had expanded their balance sheet by about 38%, if memory serves right. And recently in 2020, to counter this pandemic, the Fed expanded its balance sheet by around 75%. So the Fed basically does this with the hope of stimulating some real investment in the economy in the
Right.
form of setting up of factories, construction work, and so on and so forth to create real assets. But what happens is that this flow of money inevitably finds its way in the stock markets, does not find its way in any does not find its way in creation of any real business opportunities, and this is what has essentially led to overvaluation in stocks. So I think it's just lack of any opportunities in the real economy that is fueling this growth in the financial markets.
Absolutely. You had mentioned the overvaluation of the markets. So do you think it is justified? Do you think the current valuation, which has gone berserk, many people did not expect this. Do you think it is justified to happen? Do you think the markets had precedented this earlier?
I think to some extent it is justified because of the fact that I just stated. The US Federal Reserve has expanded its balance sheet by 75%. So all that money in the world that is going to ultimately find its way into some asset. You're not going to keep it in US bonds, which currently yield around 1.1%, if my memory serves right. So it has got to find its way into something. So that's where this all this excess liquidity has landed.
Absolutely.
So, and to answer your earlier question, the markets do always discount the future. So, to understand this, we're gonna have to go back to the month of March, where there were not so many cases of COVID in India. In fact, we were all wondering why is the government imposing such harsh restrictions when there's hardly a few people catching COVID.
Right.
And then our Honorable Prime Minister announced lockdown, 21-day lockdown, I believe, on 24th of March 2020. But
Yes.
the Sensex have already crashed by 10-15% over the last few days. That is true, I think, the middle of March till the end of March, the downward journey of the Sensex was already over. And through the lockdown months, the Sensex had already started its upward journey. So by the time the people already actually started feeling the effects of the lockdown and the economic activity came to a scratching halt, the
Hmm.
Sensex have already discounted all of that. So event-based investing like this, I believe, is largely an exercise in futility.
That is right. Absolutely well put, Aniket. Thank you so much. Now, continuing with what Aniket had mentioned here, Varad, like as he mentioned, there was too much pessimism in the market throughout the months of March, April, and May, probably until May, where Sensex saw a record fall with the price plummeting. Then we come to a phase in August and September where there is a record level of euphoria, where the stock market was performing really well, even though the economy was yet reeling under the pandemic's effect. And today, we are in a situation where there is, you can say, a FOMO, a fear of missing out on what the market has to offer right now. So, what are your thoughts on these three sessions particularly?
Yes. So the first thing which you mentioned is pessimism in the month of March. The
Right.
thing is that, as Aniket has already said, the markets discount everything. In the month of March, as the lockdown was imposed, the market expected that the economy will be harshly affected in next 2 to 3 months. That's why the
Hmm.
expectation to uh, correct that market valuation to the expected level of economic activity in the industry, the markets try to rationalize, we can say, the prices of the stocks to the levels as we have seen already, the free fall which happened in month of March and April. Coming forward, let's fast forward the time to August and September. We can see that the economy had decently started the functioning. We had seen the uh, oil consumption, which had started gaining the pace, not that much, but at least to up to some point. We have seen the
Right.
uh, oil consumption increasing. We have seen the retail demand, the you can say the FMCG industry, uh, also started recovering after some point. We could see one more thing, which is the most important one, rather the aggregate demand,
Hmm.
which is basically the combination of all of these started recovering in after June, July, and hence markets discounted that, and the markets had already predicted that if this pace continues in the economy, economic recovery for that matter, we can expect that the new normal won't be anything new, rather it will be the old thing which we were already living in. So that was the thing which markets expected. And then we have already seen the pace which markets got after August and September, followed by the all positive news or positive factors which led the rally, such as I mentioned in first question. With all these factors, we have seen the markets to rise after July and August. To answer your third question, that is fear of missing out. So many of our audience will just brief you out about what is fear of missing out basically. So when markets start recovering after a huge economic loss, huge erosion of value of investors' wealth, what happens is that after it starts recovering, the prices start rising, we see many people are making a huge amount of profits in the markets, and it's literally a word to word meaning, fear of missing out. Then everyone starts entering into the market, the new sources of liquidity start capturing the market. Then we see that the people who are previously not investing due to the erosion of value also enter the stocks with view of not to miss the rally, which we had already observed in 2017 also. So that's what we call as fear of missing out. And once the markets start recovering after the economic loss, we have historically seen that fear of missing out within the investors start rising, whether it be the period of Great Depression, after which the US economy improved till 1945, the stock markets had almost trebled. In 1987, when the another recession hit the US economy, we could after the recovery we could see the markets started rising, and then again in 2008, now 2020, we have seen any time when markets start recovering, the fear of missing out, that is FOMO, starts increasing.
Absolutely. That is right. Bharat, very well put. Now, Aniket, not to play the devil's advocate here, but just taking that into factor, overvaluations have in any asset class can see a subsidized effect or a huge crash probably sometime later in the future. So after seeing these stock markets, not just in India but worldwide, seeing in a place which is breaking psychological barriers, unprecedented, people did not expect. Do you see a huge crash, or do you see something happening, or do you think market can stabilize itself with the economic recovery whole in a whole?
I believe if you look at some of the core economic indicators, at least in India, if you look at the GST collections, I believe they've just surpassed about rupees 1 lakh crore per month. If you look at the energy consumption, the fuel consumption levels, even the inflation numbers are back to where they were earlier, around the 6% mark. So I think the underlying economic activity, at least in the organized sector, because that is where most of these data points come from, at least in the organized sector, I think the economy is pretty much not, I'll say around 80% back to pre-COVID levels. And in the unorganized sector, I think we're still a long way off, but unfortunately, that is not taken into account due to the various statistical measures that we use to measure economic growth.
Right.
And to answer your earlier question, I don't think that we are headed for a crash, because although there is a dichotomy between the state of the economy right now and the financial markets being at an all-time high, but as I said, this unprecedented liquidity from the US has got nowhere else to land. And financial assets is the only place all this liquidity is going to go. So I think these high valuations will persist for a while. And the only other alternative to this money is either debt, that is the US bond, 10-year treasury, or gold or real estate primarily. The US bond yield had sunk to around 0.3% a few months back. Now it has improved to around 1.1%, I believe. So even
That
at
is
a
right.
1.1%, there's not enough incentive for an investor to invest in debt. So that is one reason all this money is flowing into equities. Even we observed with gold. At the onset of this pandemic, at least in India, gold was around 42,000 rupees per 10 grams in Mumbai. Then at the height of this pandemic, it reached the levels of rupees 58,000. Now again, it has reached 50,000. So gold is another asset which moves in tandem, especially when there is extreme pessimism in the equity markets. All the investors flock to gold. And as the equities have recovered, gold has come down from 58,000 to 50,000. So basically, it's just a question of demand and supply. And there's huge supply of money right now in the world economy. So all this excess liquidity slushing around, it is going to persist with equities for some time, primarily because of extremely low yields in the debt side, and gold has also performed quite well. So equities is the only place where they feel is a viable option anymore.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Aniket. Um, Now, in India, we have, as we already discussed, we might not be able to make an entry at these valuations. However, do you think that Indian investors can look forward to investing in overseas market just to subsidize the effect of the overvaluations here?
To answer that question, I believe that the US markets are even more overvalued than the Indian markets right now. The
Absolutely.
Nasdaq is up by almost 50% from its earlier high prior to the COVID crash, while the Nifty, the Sensex, I believe, is up by just 20%. So, to put things perspective, the US market is even more overvalued at this point than the Indian market. So, to escape this overvaluation in India, to invest abroad is not such a good idea, but to
Mhm.
de-link yourself from the geographic concentration of investing in only one country, that is a sound reason for investing abroad. And to nitpick, I think US is the only country which Indians should choose as an investment for their equities abroad, primarily because most of the US listed companies have interests all over the world. So when you are investing in a US based company, you are basically benefiting from the growth that it gains from countries all over the world. So I think US is indeed the best proxy for investing
Mhm.
in the global economy. But to escape valuation, right now, I don't think that is a sound logic for investing abroad.
That is a wonderful justification. Thank you so much, Aniket. But just one last question pertaining to the stock market. Now, there is some analysts that would really look forward to how the blue chips perform after the effect of the overvaluation. So, do you think that there may be some interesting factors getting into the blue chip stocks here?
Yes. So the thing is that the Sensex, which we call, is nothing but the compilation or just an index which depicts the overall performance of mostly blue chip stocks. Blue
Hmm.
chips, for the information of our audience, are the big companies, or we can say large cap companies, which have already stayed in the market for so many years, as well as mostly people consider investing in blue chips as a safe alternative also.
Hmm.
So the thing here is that the rally which we have recently noticed in the Sensex and Nifty or overall world markets, but currently focusing only on the Indian side of it,
Hmm.
I can say that the blue chips can be overvalued, but the thing here is that we cannot expect them to correct anytime soon because of many reasons, such as we have already discussed here, that a lot of liquidity in the Indian market, then inflow of more liquidity from US market to India. Then we have already seen the overvaluation, which is more than proportionate to Indian stock
Hmm.
markets in the United States, that we can see as a factor that would not affect the blue chip stocks prices to come down anytime soon.
Right.
So the thing here is that we can expect the blue chips to rise further in coming future, because this year holds few more surprises as always. But the surprises, which the economy expects generally after great recessions, depressions, are far more exaggerated by the markets. We have always seen that. So this year is going to be surprising, and in this track record, we cannot expect that blue chips will correct to the record levels like we have already observed.
That.
Also, the fact with yeah, so the fact with the blue chips is that these are all big companies. Some examples of blue chips are some of Aniket's favorite companies. Also, we can say HDFC Bank, then Asian Paints. We have Reliance Industries, then Tata Motors,
Mhm.
then many more like that, which are very well known, which are expected to come to normalcy in their operations as we recover in coming future. So that's what I wanted to say.
Very well put, Bharat. Thank you so much. Now, moving our focus to the second hot topic of the day, that is cryptocurrency evaluation, where we have seen the pandemic favoring them. So, Bharat, what do you think are the reasons behind Bitcoin specifically seeing a tremendous increase, a tremendous valuation? The market shook when the price of one Bitcoin crossed like $20,000 in last month, and it's currently trading at $34,600. Right. So, what do you think are the reasons behind this? What was the market's reaction to this?
Yes, absolutely. So the thing here is that we always say this into the market. There is no single reason behind any move of the markets. As the markets consist of lakhs and crores of investors, we can say that each reaction of each investor has equal and opposite reaction of the other one. So that
Absolutely.
Newton's law applies into the stock markets also. But the thing here is that the factors which, as you said, which may have affected the valuation of bitcoins, might be the lot of liquidity, as we have already seen. Then the most important factor which I feel about crypto is that the awareness among people.
Mhm.
Yet we have already seen that the cryptocurrency is not very well known, nor as we do it in our financial assets such as stocks. The none of the institutional investors or anyone are going to buy the cryptocurrency for maximizing wealth of their investors. So we can see that the diaspora which is there currently into the stock into the crypto is very low.
Mhm.
However, as the uh, information about the crypto starts circulating into the market, we already see that the prices of bitcoins to go up. Also, the point here is that the Bitcoin, I don't personally feel is something which a common man, or a person who has low risk appetite should
Mhm.
be entering into. The reason here is primarily due to the non-governance system. As we have SEBI to regulate capital markets, we have RBI to regulate money markets. We don't have any regulatory authority to
Mhm.
regulate the you know buying and selling of bitcoins. So
Right.
we can say that that is a risky area. However, the upside was surprising for everyone.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Aniket, as Varad had mentioned that there won't be any governing body for cryptocurrency, but that was the objective behind having it, so that there is absolutely anonymity and no one knows about outside transactions, plus blockchain coming into existence here. Nobody would easily be able to trace those transactions, right? So, Aniket, do you agree with Varad's point here? Do you think consumers should not delve into it because of such extreme high risk and no governing here?
Yes, absolutely. I definitely agree with what Bharat said. And basically, the objective of Bitcoin coming into existence was one, like you said, to bring anonymity into transactions, and
Mhm.
secondly, the current generation of Silicon Valley investors, basically the guys who invented Bitcoin. I mean, there's a guy who goes by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto. That's the pseudonym for the guy who invented Bitcoin, and we still don't know who he really is. But
Yes.
primarily, the people who deal in Bitcoin, they believe that all this quantitative easing that we spoke of earlier by the central banks, that is basically unlimited money printing just at the whims and of the government and of the central banks. So there's
Mhm.
too much money chasing too few real goods, which is basically, I mean, you are devaluing your own currency by doing this. And by pushing money into the hands of institutional investors, while limited money remains in the hands of people like you and me, you are
Mhm.
reducing the purchasing power of the average consumer. That is what these people believe, and they think of Bitcoin as an alternative to this uh, unlimited supply of money by central banks. So, and that is sound logic, in my opinion. That is indeed sound logic. So I believe as a medium of exchange, Bitcoin does make sense. But as an asset class, I don't think it does make much sense. Recently, as you said, due to the overvaluation in US stocks, I think they have launched some kind of ETF in the US market that tracks the value of this Bitcoin. So you can invest in a Bitcoin in using an ETF now, which has again pushed the prices of Bitcoin up. I believe at the height of this pandemic, the Bitcoin was around $4,000 per Bitcoin, and now we are at around 35,000. So this
That is right.
excess liquidity has again found its way into the Bitcoin prices, which is ironic, in fact, because that is what the Bitcoin was trying to avoid by coming into existence.
Absolutely. But now the basic factor playing here is there is a limit kept on the number of Bitcoins that can be exchanged in the market. 21.3,
Yes,
I believe,
absolutely.
is the limit, right? So do you
Yes,
think that would
absolutely.
still make an effect, that would still formalize the kind of transactions that would happen in cryptocurrency?
Right. So there is a limit on 21 million bitcoins that can totally come into existence, and till now they have mined about 18.5 million bitcoin. So there is a limit on the number of bitcoin that can exist. But I don't think that is a reason to believe that Bitcoin can really evolve as a primary medium of exchange. And the fact that the value of Bitcoin is increasing over time further erodes the notion that it can actually serve as a medium of exchange, because it is ultimately the fiat money which is issued by governments which is fueling this price rise in Bitcoin also. So it's ironic, really. And besides, there was also the problem that the RBI had banned Bitcoin exchanges about 1 or 1.5 years back. Recently, they have allowed it again. So the RBI is also quite circumspect about the possibility of allowing Bitcoins as a primary medium of exchange, at least in India. So to stay on the right side of the law, I think it's better to stay away from Bitcoins, at least till it assumes general acceptability in India.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aniket. Just one last question, which is open to the floor here. Aniket had already dwelled into cryptocurrency not making sense being an asset class. So, what is the future? Will it ever become an asset class, or do you think cryptocurrency might just vanish? What does the future hold for cryptocurrency here? Anybody could take up this question.
Yeah, so if I can elaborate, I
Mhm.
think cryptocurrency to some extent will continue to coexist with our existing currency across the world, but I don't think it is going to take the kind of prominence that people investing in it expect it to. And most of the people who invest in Bitcoin, they don't think of it as a medium of exchange. They think of it as an asset class which has rallied rapidly in these last few months and try to benefit off of any future gains. I don't think that is the kind of thinking with which one has to get into Bitcoin. If one really believes that the quantitative easing by the central banks around the world is going to cause the downfall of the world economy as a whole, and we are talking of a doomsday kind of a situation here. So if that is what one believes in, one can keep around 1% of one's net worth in Bitcoin. But then I think the repercussions of that happening will be too severe, and then having a 1% exposure to Bitcoin will be the least of our problems in that case. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes, absolutely. The thing here is that as you said that Bitcoins have started trading under the ETFs also, which has further pushed the demand, and investors have poured millions and billions of dollars into that through ETFs. But that somehow I feel are the business and marketing strategies of many wealthy investment bankers in the US. We
Right.
can there in the US now, Wall Street has been trading into the derivatives of water also, where we can say the underlying asset was water, and that was unimaginable till date. We used to say that ये तो पानी के भाव बिकेगा, and that is particularly a joke, but the Wall Street seems to have taken it very seriously. And the Bitcoin, I personally believe, as Aniket also said, that it will coexist. It will coexist for years, we can say here. But investing in Bitcoins as asset class looks risky if we are following the principles of intelligent investing. And that was the very topic which we started today with.
Yes, and that's like we have bubbled out the entire topic that we have today
Yes.
and
Yeah,
summarized
and
all the points.
I would
Yes,
like to add another point here that
surely.
Bitcoin is the oldest and most widely accepted cryptocurrency. But it is just one among 8 or 9,000 other cryptocurrencies.
That
It's
is
just
right.
that Bitcoin is the most widely accepted one. So we have all heard of Bitcoin. But then there's another number two player called Ethereum, which
Mhm.
has lower
Yes.
market share than Bitcoin. I believe Bitcoin has around 65% or market share in the cryptocurrencies. Ethereum is the number two player, and then there are 8 or 9,000 other cryptocurrencies. So although there is a limit to the 21 million Bitcoins figure, but then there will always be other cryptocurrencies. So that is another paradox when we say that Bitcoin has value because there is a limit on the number of Bitcoins that can be issued. People will find other cryptocurrencies to mint more, and then it defeats the purpose of having a limit on the
That
number of
is
Bitcoins in supply.
That is right. Thank you so much, Aniket, for that input. And with this, we conclude our session for today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, audience, for taking Avico's session here. And if you like this video, do share and subscribe our channel. And we look forward for more sessions. Thank you so much. Varat, stop the recording.